Well, hey, this is Danielle, your Celestial Piper. I have a special guest on I've been super, super excited about, and I've been talking to him back and forth for the last couple of weeks. His name is Micah Dank, and he does a series of a book series, I should say. It is called Into the Rabbit Hole. I have 7 of his books. I think there are 9. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I am super excited to have him on. I've already read 2 of them. I started the 3rd one, and I am a nerd, so I'm just loving everything about it. He's got what I feel is a Dan Brown vibe going, but he's definitely influenced by many people. I'm going to go ahead and read his bio on the back of the book here. Micah T. Dank was born in 1983 in Oceanside, New York. From a young age, he had wanted to be a writer, coming from a family of writers. His father was a producer and a radio news editor at CBS News in Manhattan, and his grandfather was a producer at CBS News. Micah was an actor in high school, and he became interested in writing from his 12th grade English teacher, Russell Reed. From there, he majored in English at SUNY Albany and transferred down to, is that CUNY or SUNY? Hunter College in Manhattan to earn his bachelor's degree in language, literature, and criticism. It wasn't until he moved to Boston for a new job that he became interested in all the esoteric sciences, including the astrology and astrotheology prevalent through his book series. So, welcome, Micah Dank, to my channel, and I'm super humbled to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So I do have some questions, but want to let all my subscribers know that we are going to be doing I should say Mike is going to be doing a presentation today. So I'm super excited about. And in fact, the presentation, the first time he's doing this form of his presentation, because he's added stuff to it, correct me if I'm wrong, um, we're going to be seeing it on this channel. So how cool is that? So my first question for you, your main character of your book series, his name's Graham. That's all I'm giving the folks out there because they need to read it. And you guys can find his books on Amazon. Would you like them to, if not email you, or would
You
you
reach
rather?
out to me on social media. I sell signed copies too.
Okay,
If you don't like using Amazon, a lot of people don't like using Amazon because they don't want to give Bezos the money, and I'm all for it. So
yeah,
just reach out to me on social media. I'll drop them later.
yeah, and all mine are. If I put the right book this way, all mine are signed, guys. I don't know if you can see it. There it is. I'm such a nerd. I know. Um, and a huge fan. I know you said don't treat you like a celebrity, but dude, your work is amazing. So so back to what I was saying, your main character of your book series, Graham, he is he mirrored after you? Would you say he's mirrored after you? I definitely can
Yeah,
identify
it's
him.
so the books are a very close parallel reality or a parallel universe to ours. It's a very close one. There's a lot of modern day tropes in it, a lot of modern day people in it. Um, but yeah, no, the main character is basically my hero's journey.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. The whole time I was reading book 1 and book 2, I was back in I'm like, man, this guy's kind of got a lot of what I've gathered your personality when I've seen you on Leak Project and other channels, and my subscribers, from watching my videos, know how much I love Leak Project. So, and that's how I discovered Micah. So, what age did you know that you wanted? Well, you know what? I read that in your bio actually. So you said you were about in 12th grade when
Yeah.
you,
Well, it wasn't so much that I knew I wanted to be a writer, but
okay,
that I didn't read really until his class. He got me excited to read, and
he made you like it.
I've just been just reading ever since, just reading everything and anything.
That's awesome. It's kind of like with history teachers. I tell my son all the time, if you get a good history teacher, it's an amazing, amazing class, right? They make it fun. Otherwise, it can be super, super boring. Now, we don't need to go into the rabbit hole of history, of course, but
Hmm.
but you know what I mean. So, who would you say your biggest influence in the genre that you write about?
Oh, there's some Paul Auster, Chuck Palahniuk. Um, I like Paul Auster inserts himself into his own stories, so that's kind of what I've done. Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote Fight Club,
Hmm.
and a bunch of other ones. Um, Sort of a shock writer. Um, he uh, he inserts a lot of facts that make you want to look them up and study them a little deeper, and I kind of stole that from him. Uh, Dan Brown, of course, the cryptograms, the hidden information, all that. That's kind of how I write my stories. So there's a few influences out there.
Okay, sweet. And a couple more questions. If could you just so that we can draw those people in to buy your books, because like I said, I'm a huge fan. Could you give just a kind of a general overview about your series without giving it away, of course?
Um, so without giving anything away, it's basically what I'm going to teach you guys today about astrotheology is sort of the oldest and the hidden and the oldest conspiracy that's out there. Um, it's prevalent through my book series. It's what the characters discover. But what it is it's basically the story of a guy. It's the hero's journey. It's a guy who is trying to make it in the world, and then something tragic happens, and it throws him into a completely different life. And then he just follows the rabbit hole down. So the book series is called Into the Rabbit Hole. So what it basically is it's a bunch of rabbit holes that the character discovers, and you as the reader can choose to follow that and research it yourself, or just enjoy the story. You know, there's different layers to it. Some people just enjoy the story, not understanding the all the conspiracies in it. Some people will see the conspiracies. Some people will understand where I'm going with it. So there's different layers to the books.
I think it's a good way of explaining it. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely reminds me a lot of being a researcher myself. Um, how you can fall into one rabbit hole and then another rabbit hole leads you into another rabbit hole, and it's just like the never ending
Yeah,
rabbit hole.
it's never ending. Yeah.
Yep, yep. Um, and then for the last thing, and this is just like a far out there question for you, my friend. Um, so I have nothing to back up this theory, but I've always thought of space as more dimensional.
Yeah.
So, like, uh, when people say they see other beings, and I'll be honest with you, I have seen what they call UAPs now. Um, what's called UFOs, and I've seen them myself, and I've seen them do some really fantastic things in the sky where they look like they go through portals and stuff like that. My husband's
Right.
experienced it too. I was curious, do you think of it that way too, like space being more of a dimensional thing?
So we are basically space is Earth is a realm. Okay, it's not exactly a ball or a flat plane. It's not, that argue. I couldn't care less about that argument.
Right.
Earth is a realm. Okay,
That's how I look
um,
at it.
and there are different kind of realms. You've heard of Nibiru, right?
Yes, you blew my mind today with that because that just confirmed everything I was thinking.
Yeah. So Nibiru in Sumerian means oh, I forget what the word is. That's horrible. Do you remember what I said?
Yeah, you said that it meant oh gosh, crossing over.
Crossing over. That's what Nibiru
Yeah,
means. Crossing
yeah,
over. It's another dimension. It's a realm.
yeah.
It's not actually a planet. Um, so it's just basically there's a book called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot,
I've
which is
heard
a
of
good
it.
which is a good reading source, good reading material.
Write it down.
Makes a really good um, makes a really good read for it. Um, there are different entities out there. That's without a doubt. A lot of Christians sit there and believe that UFOs and aliens are demons. That's what
All
they
of them.
believe. Yeah.
All of them. Yeah. There's
Yes.
no in between.
And that couldn't be further from the truth. There
Right.
are malevolent beings out there, but they're interdimensional. They can't harm you.
Right. Like black, white, up, down. I mean, it's all a balance.
Right.
All right, cool. Well, that's all my nerdy self has for, questions. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and take the floor.
Give me a sec. Let me share this. I need to know if you could see this.
I personally can't. Well, now I can.
Okay, good. That means that you all can. Okay. So I start by saying, employ your time in improving yourself by other men's writings, so that you shall come easily by what others have labored hard for. And that's Socrates. And that's basically what it is. I've studied the Bible for 30 years. I've studied esotericism and the occult for 20. I've studied astrotheology for 10. And what I'm going to share with you is my findings today. Now, the Bible, okay, the scriptures are made up of what's known as the seven sciences: metaphysical, astrological, and astrological is what we're going to go into, anatomical, alchemical, spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. The Bible is not literal, it is not historical, it is not reality, and it is not original. Okay, we're going to make that case today. So, this is the zodiac wheel. Okay, with Capricorn at the bottom and Cancer on top, that's how it's supposed to look. Any variation of it, it's not that it's incorrect, it's just that this is how it's supposed to look. Now, astrology and astrotheology goes back to something called the Lascaux Caves, which are about 17,000 to 40,000 years ago. Here you see an article that says a Lascaux cave painting 17,000 years ago on the left. On the right, you see world's oldest cave painting show humans understood complex astronomy 40,000 years ago. Okay? The Lascaux caves are in Lascaux, France. And what happened was there were some teenagers a little while back that went into the caves, and they went to the back of the caves. And when they went to the back of the caves, they saw this. Okay, now on the top left, you see the bull. On the right, you see the many faces of the lion. And on the bottom, you see the horse. Now, they figured out quickly that the bull was Taurus, the lion was Leo, and the horse was Sagittarius. It's just missing the man with the bow and arrow on it. So what they did was they called in some scientists. They told people what they found, and some scientists came in. They carbon dated the wall. It came out to 17,000 years. Now, a lot of Christians will sit there, young Earth Christians, and sit there and say that carbon dating is inaccurate. And to their credit, they're half right. They are. Carbon dating, carbon-14 dating, is actually accurate up to 50,000 years. But anything beyond that, not so much. The 100,000 years, the millions of years, it's not. There's other uranium datings you have to go into. There's other carbon datings you have to go into. But basically what they did was they carbon dated this wall. It came out to 17,000 years. Then what they did was they called in an astronomer and an astrologer with a computer to come in and rewind the sky back 17,000 years to see what the sky looked like in Lascaux, France. What they did was they printed out what they found. They superimposed it onto the wall to see if the constellations matched up, and they did. In fact, the Lascaux caves are so important that on June 21st, the summer solstice, the sun actually goes into the cave and bounces off the back of the wall. Only on that one day.
Wow.
Okay, so it was man-made across the board. Okay, now there's questions that you can ask in the Bible. How Jesus was able to heal the blind, how he walked on water, how he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, why he was dead for 3 days, why is his birthday on December 25th. All that is astrology.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to get into that. Genesis 1:14, let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years. And that's what the stars and the sky and the sun and the moon do. Okay, now each zodiac sign is called a house or an era or an eon or a sign or a mansion. There are many words for it. Okay, they're metaphorical. What we're going to do now is we're going to go into the 12 signs. I'm going to explain the 12 signs and explain the keywords that fit in each sign. And then we're going to use that to decode some stuff. So the first sign I talk about is Aquarius, which is represented by the man with the water pitcher. So technically Aries begins the year. But I start with Aquarius because it's kind of the beginning of our year. It goes back to the story of Zeus and the young boy. So Zeus saw a young boy on earth that he wanted in heaven. It was a 14-year-old blonde boy on earth that he wanted in heaven, but the father wouldn't let him. So after a long deliberation, Zeus bargains with the dad, gives him a bunch of stuff like animals and whatever, takes the boy up to heaven. While the boy's in heaven, he is serving the gods out of this water pitcher, something called ambrosia, which was the nectar of the gods. Okay, it's what the gods drank. Eventually, the boy got fed up of doing this every single day, so he went to the side of heaven and poured it out, like in this picture you see, over the side of heaven, which caused the flood on earth. That's where the Greeks get their flood story from. Zeus gets really mad at him, and he's going to punish him, but in a moment of self-reflection, which was unlike Zeus, he realizes, I brought the boy up to heaven, he didn't really want to come, he's young, a bunch of things. So instead of punishing him, he immortalizes him as the constellation Aquarius. So there's key words: son of man, man, because these are both signs of the man, whereas Virgo is the sign of the woman. Baptism, water pitcher, because this is how you baptize someone. Water pitcher, because this is a water pitcher. Fountain, many fountains are very similar to this. Stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea. Water bodies, because there's water in Aquarius. Even though it's an air sign, there's water in Aquarius, so you can use it to speak of water. Pisces is the mutable water sign. So all the examples of water go with Pisces. Aries is the ram, and in Aries you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator, and back on its way up to its height in the summer solstice. In Christianity, the passing over is changed, and it's called the resurrection of God's Son. In the Jewish Passover, this is when the angel of death passes over all the houses that don't have the lamb or the ram. Aries, the ram, don't have the lamb or the ram's blood smeared on their doorpost. The Jews are the people of the age of Aries. Okay, their firstborn sons get killed. So whenever you're talking about ram, lamb, shepherd, ram's horn, you're talking about Aries. Taurus is the bull. When you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know that you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seed so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow, you're talking about Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. Remember those names, Castor and Pollux Troy. The story of Achilles, another Greek story. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, they're talking about Gemini. Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature. So the sun, starting on December 25th, will rise a degree on its axis. The next day, it'll rise an additional degree. The next day, an additional degree. The nights get shorter, the days get longer. It stops on June 21st. It's at its height. Then for 3 days, it rises to the same degree, hence moving sideways like the crab shuffles. Then on June 25th, it lowers a degree. Then the next day, it lowers another degree. Now the nights are getting longer, the days are getting shorter. It stops on December 21st, which is the winter solstice. It's at its lowest point. It wouldn't cross the horizon. So the ancients used to look at the sun on the winter solstice and say the sun was dead. And then just like it moved sideways for 3 days in the crab, it stays at that low point for 3 days. So suddenly God's sun was dead for 3 days. Where then on December 25th, or the birth of all the gods, the sun comes back to life. It's reborn. It's born again. So whenever you're talking about crab or beetle because the crab in the ancient Egyptian time was known as the scarab, you're talking about Cancer. Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you're talking about lion, lioness, or cub, you're talking about Leo. Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. So remember before when we said that you plant in Taurus? Well, the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, grainy things that you harvest is always done in Virgo. That's harvest season. Libra is the justice. It's the scales. It's the balance. He's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. The Jews always celebrate the new year around the fall equinox. Okay? Now it's the judgment, the justice. 8 days after the Jewish New Year in Libra, you have a day called Yom Kippur, okay, which is the day of judgment. Okay? Of course, the day of judgment happens in Libra. Okay? The day of judgment is when the Jews go to temple all day. They don't eat, they don't drink. They pray to God to keep them in the book of life for another year. Okay, so whenever you hear all judging, all law-related things, that's Libra. Libra is also wine season, which is when you plant the grapes in Taurus, you can press the wine here. So it's also olive oil season. That's when you crush the olives to make the oil. So law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, wine, vineyard, wine press, grapes, juice even, that's Libra. olive oil, that's Libra. Incidentally, frankincense and myrrh are both olive plants as well. So when you get to the New Testament and you're talking about the three kings, or you're talking about the three wise men, okay, who are coming to Jesus with frankincense and myrrh, they're talking about it being in Libra. Now, Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer.
Can I ask a quick question though?
Yes.
And I know because we're just kind of talking about how it relates to the Bible, but I know it can relate to other books as well. Does it also relate to, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce the name right, Thoth from Egyptian with the scales and stuff, or am I getting the wrong guy?
No. So Thoth, the thing about Thoth is it's very confusing. Some people say that, first of all, you're talking about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth.
Right.
Some people say that that's 36,000 years old. Some
Right.
people say that Thoth is actually Hermes from the Egyptians.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book called The Quantum Hermetica that goes into it.
Okay.
It goes really deep into it. It's got principles that we don't really have
Okay.
until very currently. For example, you have the principle of gender, okay, where they
Yeah.
say everything is male and female. That's in the Book of Thoth.
Right.
You also
Right.
have the principle of the third principle is the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything vibrates.
Right.
Okay. Now that's when it was written. It was written at least 6,000 years ago. Okay. String theory is now only finding out that everything is made up of strings that are vibrating. So we're relearning this science.
Yeah.
That we already knew, that was already out there. Okay. Now, as far as Thoth goes, not
and
so
I'm
much.
Sorry, I know I kind of threw a, whatever in there.
No. Feel free to jump in. It's fine. No, I don't really connect it to Thoth, to be honest with you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the mafia has the kiss of death, and it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss, because Judas represents Scorpio. Each one of the disciples represents one of the 12 zodiac signs. So the sun is judged in Libra and betrayed in Scorpio. Finally, in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun, effectively killing it. Why? Why does it kill the sun in Sagittarius? Because the last day of Sagittarius is December 21st. The sun is at its lowest point. It cannot rise any lower. It's dead. Okay? So Sagittarius is horse, bow and arrow, spear, horseman, or death. Anytime they're talking about a death, that's always correlating in Sagittarius, and I'm going to show you that. Finally, of Capricorn, because he's the goat, because he likes to climb the mountain. You ever see a mountain goat climb a mountain? It can climb on a 1-inch ledge. It's incredible. If you've ever seen the the zodiac wheel on the right, Capricorn's at the very bottom, and the hero's journey starts at the very bottom, and it goes to the left a degree a day. It goes through all the signs until it hits the top of Cancer. That's the summer solstice. That's the glory. Okay? Whereas after it hits the summer solstice, it then makes a seamless transition into Leo, and the ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. Okay? So from June 21st till through Leo, the sun is home. The sun is in its glory. It's summer. Everything is alive. Okay? So those are the 12 signs. So I'm going to start going into some things. It might be a little controversial, but there are names in church that are given to Jesus that are just pure astrological. Okay? Now, Jesus being the Son of God, the S-U-N, okay, he's a solar deity. He's the solar deity of Pisces, of the age of Pisces. Okay? So, when the, yeah? So when the sun is in Capricorn, the goat, he's called the scapegoat of Israel in church. When the sun is in the man sign Aquarius, he's called the Son of Man. When the sun is in Pisces, the two fish, he's called the fisherman of men. And it's also why he could feed the masses with the two fish. When the sun is in Aries, the ram, he's called the Lamb of God or the Good Shepherd. Cancer, the scarab, right?
Yep.
St. Augustine called Jesus the good beetle. Okay? When the sun is in Leo, he is the Lion of Judah. When the sun is in Virgo, the lady holding the stalk of wheat, he's born of a virgin, and he's called the bread of life. Libra is the scales of justice. He's known as the just one. Then he's betrayed in Scorpio. He dies in Sagittarius on December 21st. It's also why he's worshipped on the sun day, whereas the Jewish day of rest is the Saturday or the Saturn day, because their religion goes back to Saturnalia worship. Now, there's some things I want to draw your attention to the picture of Jesus on the left. Okay, the sun behind his head, his two fingers up like this, the heart and the crown of thorns outside his body, the red and the white clothes, and his face. Okay, the sun is always behind Jesus because he represents the sun. The two fingers up are an ancient Kemetic peace sign. Okay, this is an ancient Kemetic peace sign. Do you see what I'm doing?
Yep.
This is an ancient Kemetic peace sign. This John Lennon sign, this is actually Churchill's V for Victory. It's a British war sign. The fingers are separate. It's a war sign. This is not a peace sign. This is the ancient peace sign. So whenever you see Baphomet, or whenever you see Jesus, or whenever you see Buddha, or any of these people doing this, it's an ancient Egyptian peace sign.
But people are going to say John Lennon said it was a peace sign.
John Lennon was an idiot. So the white Jesus picture is actually a guy named Caesar Borgia, who was the bastard son of Pope Alexander VI. So what happened was, Rodrigo Borgia of the Borgia Illuminati family, okay, he bought his way to the papacy in the 1500s. Okay, now popes used to have kids. They did. They just weren't. Popes never got married, so all the kids were bastards. But this guy was especially big bastard. He literally killed his brother and slept with his sister, among other things that he's done. He was a horrible person. But Pope Alexander VI decided his face would be the face of. Now, the printing press came out about 80 years before. So they were able to finally mass produce pictures of Jesus. Before this, there were no official pictures of Jesus. So they mass produced his face. The crown of thorns wrapped outside the heart on the outside, and the heart is always on the outside, represents the rays of the sun. The heart outside the body represents the human toroidal field, or the torus field. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that the Bible is also alchemical. Well, if you look at Jesus always wearing the red and the white, it's the marriage of the red king and the white queen in alchemy. Okay? To break it down a little bit more specifically, it's what happens when you mix mercury, the red, and sulfur, the white. Okay? When you mix those chemicals together. That's alchemy. Okay? So that's why he's wearing red and white. Okay? Now, these are just pictures of Jesus. Look, the sun behind his head, the sun behind his head, the sun behind his head, the sun involved. Okay? The same stereotypical face. In the second picture, sometimes you see a Knights Templar cross that's in the sun. Okay? The heart's always outside the body, the two fingers up. You'll always see this. Now, these are baby Jesus pictures. Okay? You'll always see Polaris, the North Star, in it.
Yep.
Okay? You'll always see Jesus' baby Jesus, with the sun behind his head because he represents the sun. They're literally telling you in symbolism. Now, this is the human toroidal field, an electromagnetic field of the heart. It starts with your heart, and it revolves around you 6 feet. Okay? It looks like an apple. Okay? It revolves around you 6 feet. Okay? That's your range of being able to communicate submolecularly with another human being. When someone comes up behind you and you know they're there, you're not psychic. Okay? You're not heightened awareness. They broke your toroidal field. You can sense them. Okay?
Keep that in mind after the last 2 years we just experienced.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a 6 foot revolution around your body. That's why that's why the elite tried to keep you 6 feet apart. Okay, that's where they get that arbitrary number from, because they don't want anybody interacting with anybody.
Yep.
Okay, when you interact with someone, this is what it looks like. All right, it forms a vesica Pisces. Okay, that's what it looks like when two people are interacting with one another. Now, the guy on the left is the picture of Jesus. The guy on the right is an early drawing of Caesar Borgia. You can kind of see where he gets his facial features. There are other pictures that look a lot more like it, but this is where you get it from.
No, you can see it.
You see it?
Yes, totally see it.
Yep, that's where he gets it from. Okay, so now, before the Shroud of Turin was discovered in 525 AD, almost all paintings and drawings of Jesus were shown as a young beardless man. Okay, so then the shroud comes around and they go, oh, Jesus must have a beard. And then this guy comes around and they go, oh, that's what he looks like. That's why Jesus is white. That's why Jesus looks like this.
Yep.
Okay. Now let's start decoding something. So pride comes before the fall. Okay. Pride
That's
comes
always
before the
been one of my favorite scriptures.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, can you explain it to them? Can you explain it to your listeners what everyone tells you it's supposed to mean?
Well, in Christianity, a lot of people could like refer to Lucifer, even though I know exactly what Lucifer is now, but seeing Lucifer as the devil or the adversary, they would say, well, like Lucifer, he was real prideful before he fell. So, when you are real prideful like that, it's kind of like related to karma in a way, even though Christians say they don't believe in karma. But
Well,
yeah,
karma is the only truth out there.
yeah,
Karma
agreed.
is the only truth. That's why the elites have to show you. It's called revelation of the method. They have
And
to
it's
show
good
you
and
what they
bad.
what?
It's good and bad too. People
Yeah,
always refer to karma as negative, but it's
right. No. What you put out into the universe, you get back. That's why the elites, when they show us what they're going to do with everything, with the eating bugs and this, they have to show us all this stuff
yep,
because it negates the karma.
yep.
Okay, that's why they do it. That's why they show us. That's why they put Illuminati symbolism. And again, I hate using the word Illuminati, but that's why they put hidden occult symbolism. Okay, occult literally just means hidden. Okay, it's not evil. That's why they put symbolism in music, in TV, in everything,
Do
because
you
it offsets
honestly?
the karma.
I'm sorry. Do you honestly believe though that it's really offset in the karma though,
The
or
idea
just
is, and this is
conscious?
what they believe, is that if they show you what they're doing
Yep.
and you allow it to happen, then you become an active participant in it.
Mm-hmm.
You allow it to happen. Therefore, it offsets the karma. That's the thought behind it.
Right.
Now, if they were to do something covertly without you knowing, they're just building karma on themselves.
Gotcha.
And then you've got dharma, and then karma and dharma, and then other things. But basically, no. So explain pride comes before the fall, real quick.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I'm interrupting.
No, not at all. No. Explain pride comes before the fall to your listeners.
What, in your way?
No, but no. Okay, so basically, let's just say that pride is basic. It's basically saying that um, if you become too boastful, too prideful, you're setting yourself up for an ego
Right.
downfall.
Right.
Okay, but a group of lions is also called a pride.
Yep.
Okay, pride is the lion. Lion is Leo. Leo is in July and August. That comes 2 signs or 2 months before the fall.
Yep.
In September.
Literally.
Yes, literally. So pride literally comes before the fall. Now in the book of Micah 5:2, but you which is where I get my name from. But you, Bethlehem, Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from old, from ancient times. However, Bethlehem in Hebrew is 2 words. Bet means house, and lechem, which means bread, so the house of bread. Well, I told you earlier on that each zodiac sign is called a house. So who
Mm-hmm.
would the house of bread be? It would be the lady with the wheat stalk. That's
Right.
the house of bread. This is Virgo with the wheat stalk, the virgin. So what they're really saying is the Savior will come from Bethlehem, the Savior will come from a house of bread. That's a
Virgin
virgin.
Mary.
So the Savior will come from a virgin.
Yep.
That's what they're saying. Okay, that's how you're supposed to read this. Now, Revelation 32, sorry. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So let's go through this. He gave them honey from the cliffs. In the sign Cancer, there's a group of stars called the Beehive Cluster. Okay, it's an asterism. It's a close knit group of stars. It's close like the Pleiades are. So the honey comes from Cancer. Okay, from the Beehive Cluster. The olive oil comes from Libra. Okay, that's when you press the olives.
Yeah.
Okay, and the milk from the flock comes from the Milky Way galaxy, and the Milky Way galaxy has been called the Milky Way galaxy, name on name, since the Egyptian Book of the Dead, at least.
Yeah.
Okay, which predates the Bible by many, many years. Okay, so the milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose centers in Sagittarius. So your land from the Beehive Cluster in Cancer to Sagittarius, the Milky Way galaxy, that's your land of milk and honey. It's in the celestial heavens. It's not a place on earth. Okay, these are
Right.
just celestial poems. He gave them lambs, that's Aries, and goats, the goat is Capricorn. They had the best rams, that's Aries from Bashan, and the finest wheat. Well, wheat is Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. Well, wine comes from Libra. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. Well, the bull is Taurus.
Right.
There's 10 signs. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 signs in this one passage.
That's almost all of them.
Yeah. Okay. Now this. Mount of Olives. Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover so he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olives, he gave the parable of the true vine. So look at the zodiac on the left, because this is how you decode things with my cipher. Passover takes place in Aries, so find Aries. That's all the way on the left of the wheel.
Yep.
Well, right after that, he walks to the Mount of Olives. Well, Olives are Libra. So you go from Aries to Libra. That's literally its opposing sign. It goes across the zodiac.
Yep.
The patterns that you're going to find in this, you're going to find connecting signs. So if you're in Aries, your connecting signs are Taurus and Pisces, and Libra is the opposing sign. Okay?
So it's basically the ones next to them is the connecting signs, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm a Cancer, so my opposing sign would be Capricorn.
Cancer's opposing sign would be Capricorn.
Okay.
You just go across the wheel.
Just want to make sure.
So you go from Aries, okay, Passover, to Libra, the Olives. Now they're waiting for Judas to betray him. Well, I told you the betrayer is Scorpion because it bites you and it leaves this imprint that looks like a pair of lips. It's a metaphor because it's a kiss, but it's full of poison. That's the metaphor. Okay, so you go from Aries to Libra and you're waiting for the next sign. So you're already creating two patterns here. Okay, while they're in Libra, he gives the parable of the true vine, which goes back to the grapes and wine, and that's also in Libra. So this is how we're going to be able to decode things using the wheel. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which are under the firmament from the waters which are above the firmament, and it was so. The firmament are the dividing lines between the zodiac signs. So let me go back to, what am I on, 34 now? Let me go back to this. The firmament is not a flat earth dome above. That's not what the firmament is. The firmament are the dividing lines between signs, and you can see them here.
I think you read my mind because I was thinking in my head exactly that.
It's not that. No, it's mistranslation, okay? The firmament are these dividing lines. What these dividing lines, they don't actually exist in the sky, but what they represent is a 3-day time period where one sign hands over the energy to the next. Okay? So basically what happens is I'm born September 26th. Virgo ends September 23rd. I'm within 3 days of Virgo. So it's a handover date. Okay? Yeah. Some people call them cusps. Some people call them handover dates. But that's what it basically describes. It's a 3-day time period where one sign blends into another.
How about like the 27th? Would that still be considered in there too?
No, my day, September 26th is the last day. It's 3 days within the last sign.
Because I'm June 27th, and I was just curious because I'm considered Cancer. And I didn't know if that was like just curious.
No, because the first day of Cancer is June 21st, so that's 6 days out.
Okay, cool. I'm learning a lot.
Cancer actually starts June 21st. The first half of the day is Gemini, and the second half of the day is Cancer. Okay, that's the summer solstice.
It's interesting how those charts work because my ascending sign is Gemini. So it's neat, like the time, the hour, but that's a whole other topic.
Right. Which I don't really get into.
Yeah.
So the firmament, if you look at this, now read this. And God made the firmament and divided the waters. Well, there's Aquarius and Pisces, the two waters that I went over, which divided the waters which are above. There's Aquarius from the waters which are below. That's Pisces. So Genesis 1:7 is talking about creating Aquarius and Pisces. Revelation 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. The first living creature was like a lion, that's Leo. The second was like an ox, that's Taurus. The third had a face like a man, that's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the scorpion is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. Okay? Its evolved form, also called the ascendant, is the eagle, which is the highest flying form of life on Earth. See, this stuff is venerated into real things. In Mexico, in something called Santo de la Muerte, okay, the Day of the Death, what you do is a lot of the men dress up in suits, and what they do is they get on their hands and knees and they crawl on their belly to church. It's a punishment, okay? It's meant to humble you. But the evolved form is the ascendant, which is the eagle, okay? So the eagle equals Scorpio. Now, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are the 4 fixed signs. You have fixed signs, you have cardinal signs, you have different kinds of signs. But the reason they're called fixed signs is because they're fixed in their season, okay? The lion, Leo, is right in the middle of summer. Taurus is right in the middle of spring, Aquarius, winter, and the eagle or Scorpio is the fall. So let's read this one more time. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. Now, the lion and the man are opposing signs. The ox, Taurus, and the Scorpio or the eagle are opposing signs. So when you take this and you superimpose it onto the zodiac wheel, it makes this. Okay? It makes a very distinct pattern through the zodiac wheel. It's actually an X or a cross that it makes. That's what they're talking about. Okay? Ezekiel 10:14. Each of the cherubim had 4 faces. One face was that of a cherub, the second face of a human being, the third the face of a lion, and the fourth the face of an eagle. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. Now, I don't get into numerology at all when they're talking about the heads or the horns, but what I can tell you in this particular passage is the 7 heads are the 7 chakras. The 10 horns are the 10 points on the Kabbalah tree of life. And the 7 crowns are the 7 planets that they knew about at the time. See, they didn't know about Uranus. Okay? They didn't know about Uranus at the time, amongst others. So its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. A woman clothed with the sun is a sun clothed in Virgo. It's just a metaphor. If the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So there's a 24-hour-a-day clock. There's 12 zodiac signs. The moon spends 2 hours a day in each sign. It's just simple math.
Yep.
Now, if the sun is in Virgo and you do the math, that's between 4 and 6 p.m. So the sun is still out. So if the sun is out, the moon will be at her feet. Right. I mean, not literally, but it's just a metaphor. Mm-hmm. Whereas if the moon is out, the sun is usually registered as being down, right? So another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. The constellation Draco is the dragon. Its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the sign, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. This is all just star poetry. There's not going to be a dragon and a pregnant woman in the heavens fighting it out at the end of days.
Darn!
It's not. And, for all the talk that religious people use things like apologetics to explain things like this,
right,
or to explain away a talking donkey, or to explain this away, I'm using the zodiac wheel and my understanding of the constellations at the time and keywords. That's all I'm using. It's the same thing that I'm using that I've used through books. Revelation 7:4. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. So the Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, take this very seriously. They believe that only 144,000 people go to heaven to be saved, to see God.
That's pretty depressing.
What's up?
I said that's pretty depressing.
Yeah, it is. And they believe that it's predetermined. So it doesn't matter what you do on earth.
Yep.
Even though they try to be as good as they can so they can be part of the 144,000. But that's not it. And it's a horrible way of looking at things because it puts you in fear your whole life.
Yeah. Okay? A hard way to live.
What is the 144,000? How do you get to see God? Well, it comes from influence from the East. It's the chakras. There are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals. The sacral has 6. The solar plexus has 10. The heart has 12. The throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it's 2 times as powerful as the lower chakras. So 48 times 2 equals 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. When you add the lower 6, you get 96 plus 48 equals 144. And you times that by 1,000, and you get your 144,000. When you've activated all your chakras, this is when you get to go see God. Okay?
That's pretty awesome.
Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Well, the sheep is Aries, and the wolf is the constellation Lupus, which borders the Libra line. Those are opposing signs. Look at the pattern it makes in the wheel. Okay, so this is all encoded. So I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament. I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to split this in two, because I don't think I'm going to have enough time to do both.
Okay.
If you're okay with that.
I'm totally okay. I'm just grateful to have you on. So
I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. Let's take a much longer passage to see if we get decoded as well. Do you come from a religious background?
Yeah, yes and no. So long story short, I was raised Catholic, and then I was, rebelled against it. Teenager, started getting into Wicca. Then I moved down here to North Carolina, the Bible Belt, and I got saved. So then I was a born again Christian, and I would, even though I said I was against religion, when I look back, I was quite religious, to be honest with you. I was a super Christian.
Were you? Okay, great.
Yes.
That's great. So can you explain to people who Job was?
It was one of my favorite books. So Job basically was a guy after God's heart. He did no wrong in God's eyes. He was amazing, but he had everything. He had family of kids he loved. He was rich. He didn't need for anything. So Satan went to God and was like, "Hey, I know how to get to him. Take things away from him, and he will curse you." But basically, long story short, Job had everything happen to him, his family taken away, sores all over his body. And even though he did the whole woe is me because he was in agony, he never once cursed God.
Correct. Now, at one point when he lost everything, it's important to know too, I get into this in the second half of the presentation, but at 100 AD, the Old Testament was not canonized yet. Okay, they had something called the Synod at Jamnia, or the Senate at Jamnia, where they did what the Council of Nicaea did. They put the books in order. They left this one out. They did this. They did this in 100 AD. Okay, believe it or not, the book of Genesis is actually younger than the book of Job. The book of Job is older than all the books, and it's not even close.
That actually makes sense.
The book of Job is actually the oldest book in the Bible. Okay. So
I think I kind of felt that internally, even as a super Christian.
Okay. So what I wanted to remind you too is that at one point, Job is sitting like basically on like a rock or on the ground, and he's crying up to God, and God answers him, right?
Yeah.
What I'm going to read you is God's answer. Now, the first sentence is what God says. The second is the astrological interpretation. Job 38:32. Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? That's the first thing God says. The Mazzaroth literally means the zodiac. It literally does. Mazzaroth over time becomes Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today as Mazel Tov, which means good fortune from the stars. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Well, those are obvious celestial metaphors. Yeah. Then he says, can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above, and the bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper. People have heard of Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. These aren't small stars. You've heard of the Great Bear.
Yeah.
Who can tip over the water jars of heavens? Well, literally, the man tipping over the water jar of heaven. That's Aquarius. You hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger for the lions. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, that's Leo. Now, Aquarius and Leo are opposing signs. Who provides food for the raven? The constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Now, Virgo and Libra are connecting signs.
Okay.
Do you watch where the doe bears her fawn? Mriga, meaning deer, is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's a Celis borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. That's Lambda Achille or Al Thaliman, which means two ostriches in Arabic. Do you give the horse its strength? So we're mentioning the horse, so we know it's Sagittarius, but watch this. It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver rattles against its side. The quiver with the bow and the arrow. The quiver with the arrows, along with the flashing spear and lance. Sagittarius with the bow and the arrow. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? That's Aquila, which is the Latin name for eagle and is a constellation a few degrees above the celestial equator. Finally, he says, can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook? And anybody that knows about the ancient fish god worship during the early ages of Pisces, just like Jesus, the Piscean sun god, you had Mithraism, you had Dagonism, the Pope's mitre hat.
Yeah.
The Pope's hat, you turn it sideways, it looks like a fish head. That goes back to Dagonism. Okay. Leviathan was a fish god. Okay, so that's Pisces.
That makes sense.
All God really does is test Job about where does he know where all the constellations are.
And it's funny because that was always my favorite part of Job. And I had no idea. Isn't that funny how that works? But, I'm curious because here you refer the eagle to Aquila. Mm-hmm. And then Scorpio was referred to as
Thank
eagle.
you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up because I got that brought up when I did a presentation a while back. So there are sometimes in zodiac and in constellations, there are multiple examples. For example, the serpent, for example. Mm-hmm. You have Ophiuchus, okay, who's in Vedic astrology. You have Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, right? It's a man holding a box, and there's a snake in it, and the snake is facing Sagittarius. So that's the snake. That's the serpent. But there's also a serpent on the other side of the zodiac wheel, right by Aries. It's called Hydra. Hail Hydra. That's the sea serpent. Okay, so there are examples of multiple, for example, two eagles or two snakes. There are examples of that. You just have to, what you have to do when you're figuring out which one they're talking about is use the patterns that I've given you and find the opposing or the connecting signs. Usually they'll explain it to them.
Okay, it's good to know. I figured somebody might have that question when they're watching this too.
No, I appreciate that question. That's fine. So Psalms 104. And notice I'm jumping from book to book to book to book to book just to show you that it's the same stuff in every book.
Yep.
So he sends forth springs in their valleys. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle, and wine which makes man's heart glad, so that he may make his face glisten with oil. The high mountains are for the wild goats. He made the moon for the seasons. The sun knows its place and its setting. The young lions roar after their prey. The springs are Aquarius. The wild donkeys are Celis borealis, which are in Cancer. The cattle is Taurus. The bull. The wine is Libra. The oil is Libra. The wild goats are Capricorn. The moon for the season and the sun knows its place of its setting is openly talking about the sun and the moon. The lions roar after their prey are Leo, the lion. Psalm 147. He gives to the beast its food and to the young ravens which cry. He does not delight in the strength of the horse. He does not take pleasure in the legs of the man. He makes peace in your borders. He satisfies you with the finest of the wheat. He gives snow like wool. The ravens are the constellation Corvus. The horse is Sagittarius. The man is Aquarius. The wheat is Virgo. And the wool from the sheep is Aries. So you see, it's all making the same patterns. Now, there's questions from the beginning.
Some of it is so obvious when you look at it, when you know even just a little bit of the zodiac wheel.
Oh, yeah. I've been told that I take something that's infinitely complex and break it down so that a child could understand it.
You sure do, because
which is probably the greatest compliment that people continuously give me.
Truly is a gift, Micah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So answers to the questions at the beginning. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. Well, remember, Jesus is his son, right? He's the sun, not the sun. He's the sun in the sky. Okay? If you look out right now, the sun is out, so I can see. Now, in the story, what happens, Danielle? The blind man comes up to Jesus. Does he not lick his fingers, touch the man's eyes, and then the guy could see?
Yeah, removes the...
Yep. Right? Okay, well, the sun does the same thing too. Because when the sun goes down, We're blind. We can't see without artificial light, without the moon, the stars, the lampposts.
It's the light of the world.
It's the light of the world. The only begotten Son. So how Jesus was able to heal the blind, when the sun comes up in the morning and touches your eyes, you're given the gift of sight again.
Yep.
How he walked on water. What?
I said we only have one son.
Yep. How he walked on water. Okay, you ever see the sun set on a lake before? How it walks on water?
Yep.
Right? And the other thing too is Jesus Christ is the name given to him. Christ goes back to Christos in Greek. Christos means
you're gonna
oil.
love this one.
Christos means oil in Greek. Does oil not walk on water too? When you pour oil on top of water, does it not walk across the water? It's what it is it's a double entendre. That's what it is. How he turned water into wine. This is a process. This is not a parlor trick.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens is the reason the sun is considered the God is considered a man and earth is considered a woman has to do with one thing. It has to do with the rain. Okay. In Hebrew, the word is shemen. We get the word semen from it. It's the sacred fluid. So what literally happens in the heavens is God's sacred fluid comes onto Mother Earth, and then she gets pregnant. And then from her belly, fruit, vegetation, plants grow. Everything grows. So what happens is in Taurus, remember the bull with the plow? April showers bring May flowers. That's what happens. That's Taurus. So you plant in Taurus, you plant the grapes, and then it rains and it rains and it grows. And then in Libra, you pick the grapes and you crush them into wine. That's how you turn water into wine.
And that's why
he had 12 disciples
for this.
I'm sorry, go on.
And there were festivals for this, people celebrating that.
Yep, they knew this.
Yep.
Why he had 12 disciples. We went over this, that Judas is Scorpio. Mm-hmm. Well, would John the Baptist not be Aquarius, the man with the water pitcher? What about Simon Peter? Have you heard me talk about Simon Peter?
Yeah. Yes.
Simon Peter is given he's given the name Peter.
Yep.
He's given the name Peter, but that doesn't make sense, Yeah. My name is Micah. Some people call me Mike. Some people call me Mickey, if you really know me. There's names for that. Michael, Mike, Sam, Samuel, whatever.
I get Dan, D.
Yeah, but Simon Peter doesn't make sense unless you understand astrology.
Right.
Okay. See, Simon was a fisherman, and the sign in the zodiac for the fish is Pisces, and the ruling sign of Pisces is Jupiter or Jew Peter, hence why he gets the name Peter from. Yep. So I've just given you 3 examples of how they manifest. The rest have stories too, but I'm not going to really get into that. Why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, we went into that. Why he was dead for 3 days, we went over that. Why is his birthday on December 25th, we went over that. This is all astrology, people.
Now, people might argue that because you mentioned John the Baptist, he technically was not one of his apostles. And I just know that some Christians might argue that point, and I wanted to bring it up.
Okay. That's fine. There's a story for each one of them.
But honestly, I mean, if you want to be like technical, I mean, anybody in the Christian faith, anybody that follows them is technically an apostle. But you can't deny the fact that you have 12 apostles, you have 12 months in a year, you have 12 zodiac signs. So, I mean, there's just too many things that you can't deny.
And we're going to get into decoding in the second half when we do it, like maybe next week or so. We're going to get into art. We're going to get into all sorts of stuff. So you have to understand is this science that I'm teaching you guys only works for people in the Northern Hemisphere. And there's a reason for that. The Egyptians, Jews, Christians, and Muslims are all based out of the Northern Hemisphere. For example, June 21st, the summer solstice is actually the winter solstice in Australia and New Zealand, much of South America and South Africa. So what you have to understand is that this science was put together by people in the North. Okay. It's backwards in the South. Okay. And the reason it's taught this way is because they were all from the North. Okay. If civilizations
in Australia, their summer's December and that kind of thing.
Yep. It's backwards. Okay. So
makes sense.
It doesn't stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible that can be decoded this way. We're going to go through the entire book of Matthew to show how deep this runs. And then we're going to pause. Okay? So, on the left, I've put the zodiac, and I've highlighted in red the sections you should be looking at. So Matthew 3:2, repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the four major points of the zodiac and ends at one of them as well. The two solstices and the two equinoxes, when connected, form a cross. This is known as the cross of God's sun. The kingdom of heaven is Leo, whose ruling planet is the sun. This is the only sign that the sun rules over. The closest of the 4 points is June 21st in Cancer, to Leo, the kingdom of heaven. So this is where the gospel starts. This is the firmament between Cancer and Leo. I've explained the firmament before. There's a saying in the Bible that says the firmament shows God's handiwork. The firmaments are the dividing lines between signs. Now the next passage, Matthew 3:4, John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food he ate locusts and wild honey. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of this. And for the people who are going to tell me, well, the Vitruvian Man wasn't out when the Bible was written, it doesn't matter. You could use a stick figure. It'll do the same thing. I'm just using the Vitruvian Man.
There's so much esoteric teachings in art, period. Like if people were to pay attention to it, they'd be able to, see things a little bit more clear.
Yep. Cancer being the head is why he eats the wild honey. Get it? The head is in Cancer. There's a beehive cluster. The bees produce honey.
Yeah.
So Leviticus 11, what is clean and unclean to eat? All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of those, you may eat any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. So when the elites are trying to tell you that a pound of grasshopper is 3 times as nutrition as a pound of beef, it's biblical. Them trying to get you to eat bugs now, they're getting it straight from the Bible.
Ugh, sorry, can't do.
Okay. A little lower on the body is the clothes made out of camel hair, or camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. So right now you have the head and the upper body so far. Okay, you went from Cancer to Gemini. Those are connecting signs. Now you're going to Taurus, which is another connecting sign. Moving a little lower on the body, you get the midsection, which is where you would wear a belt. Taurus represents the bull, and the female is the cow, which is where you would get the leather. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits between Taurus and Gemini. So next would be the baptism. Now, how are we going to go from the beginning of Leo to a water sign to signify the baptism? You'd go across the zodiac. Cross signs, as they are known, are signs of opposite location. For example, Aries and Libra are cross sign. This is very important. The sign's 2 most important signs are its neighboring signs. Well, 3 most important signs are its 2 neighboring signs and its cross sign. Here we see how it makes a leap from one firmament to the other. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th and rises a degree a day, then that must mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decrease a degree a day. This is why in John 3:30, John says, he must increase, but I must decrease, which makes sense because as one goes up, the other goes down if you're 6 months apart. It's also why St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birth of Jesus. Look up any Catholic calendar. It's June 24th. The next story is the temptation of Jesus, so we're going back to the Cancer-Leo firmament of July 24th. Well, this one is simple. He's tempted for 40 days. So count 40 days. Goes from July 24th, takes you to September 2nd. That's right in the middle of Virgo. Right in the middle of Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. So what's the next passage? Here we see that Matthew 4:3 says, if you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is in Virgo. The next passage, Matthew 5:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. This takes place in Libra. Virgo and Libra are connecting signs.
Can see it.
Okay. Matthew 7:15 and 16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? The sheep are the ram in Aries, and the grapes are in Libra. Once again, these are opposing signs. Moving along, Matthew 13. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. The story now moves from Libra to the barrier between Aquarius and Pisces, as he is right beside the lake, or the 2 water signs. See, if they said he was in a lake, he would have to be in either Aquarius or Pisces. But because he's beside the lake, he's in between. Now, it's important to know, you can see here at the bottom, Capricorn and Aquarius, you see the firmament. Right. When you're on the firmament, when you're decoding this, you can use it to talk about goats in Capricorn. You can use it to talk about the man in Aquarius. But if you're only in one sign, you can only talk about that sign. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so that's how you use it to decode. Okay.
Cool.
So the story now moves from Libra to the barrier between Aquarius and Pisces as he's right beside the lake, or the two water signs. Its cross sign is the Leo Virgo firmament. As it's across from Leo, the wheat stalk, the grains, is it ironic that the next parables are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast? Moving right along, next is the fishing net parable. So now we go back across from Leo Virgo to Aquarius Pisces. Gemini is the sign of two men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. This ends at the firmament of Gemini Cancer. How do we know this? Well, look at the firmament of Gemini Cancer, okay? Find its cross sign. What would its cross sign be?
Well, I can't see the whole thing.
From Gemini Cancer, it goes across.
So would it be Sagittarius and Capricorn?
Right. Now, what is the firmament of Sagittarius Capricorn? What day? I've mentioned it.
Of Sagittarius and Capricorn, it's the 24th, right?
21st.
21st.
What happens on the 21st?
That's when the sun starts to die.
No, that's the 20th. No, yeah, that's when it dies. Correct. It's the day of death.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were in Gemini talking about the twins. Now we're in the firmament. It goes across to Sagittarius Capricorn, touching on Sagittarius, the day of death. What's the very next passage? It's the death of John the Baptist. As I mentioned previously before, death comes at the end of Sagittarius. The firmament of Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Gemini Cancer are opposing signs. So let's take this sentence, which sounds like it could be in the Bible, but isn't. I actually made this up.
Okay.
If I say to you, the rulers were divided between war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation.
So like,
or the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who's the goddess of love. There's your war and love. If you connect it, it literally splits the land or the zodiac in half.
Oh, yeah.
That's how these things are broken down. That's how these metaphors work.
I've heard you say that before, but it's like really hitting me now.
That's basically how these passages work. Matthew 14, 17, and 32. But we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. The bread and the fish are opposing signs in the zodiac. The fish are Pisces. The bread is Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. Also, Pisces is the 2 fish, which is why Jesus fed the masses with 2 fish. And as far as the 5 loaves of bread, if you start the year in Aries and you count 5 signs, you get to Virgo. That's why it's 5 loaves of bread. This is the cross of God's sun. We were just in Virgo, and now next is Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? What stories do we get now? The story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage, so all law stuff, and the parable of the vineyard worker, the wine stuff. So you know they're talking about Libra.
Right.
Next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is where Judas betrays Jesus with the kiss.
Yep.
Okay. And then next is the death of Jesus. Okay. Astrology is a language. If you understand this language, the sky speaks to you. And that is the first half of my presentation.
It was awesome. And I know a lot of people's minds are going to be blown, and there's probably going to be some people not too happy with either one of us. But
well, when you learn this, okay, Danielle, you go through the 5 stages of death.
Yeah.
Is it the 5 stages of grief or the 5 stages of death? I think it's death.
I could definitely
denial, anger, bargaining, acceptance, right?
Yeah.
Denial, anger.
I was pissed.
Bargaining, acceptance.
Yeah.
You go through that. Everybody has to go through that. You have to go through those 5 emotions.
And the freedom is amazing.
Right. In the next one, we're going to go into what Baphomet is, what Satan is, what Lucifer is, what hell is. We're going to go into all that. I'm going to explain what it is. And you guys, your minds are going to be blown once he goes over that, because it's like, that's freeing in itself. So, all right. Well, I guess we'll wrap this up. I've taken up a lot of your time today. No, it's totally fine. I'm going to see my nieces and nephews with my wife.
It's a good thing to do.
I'm gonna go hang out with the little ones, and
way up north for me. So,
but I wanted to get this done with you. I know we had some issues.
Yeah. I think I manifested that, but I do want to tell everybody just how awesome you are. I know you probably like, stop it, Danielle, but he was so patient with me. I've been talking for the last couple of weeks. He's been dealing with my nerdy self and he's just been so cool. I just feel like I made another friend. I'm like, this guy's awesome, So I'm very laid back, and one of the channels he showed me to, they only had 100 and something subscribers on it. So he's not Mr. Ego. He don't care how many people are on one channel. He will do his presentation because he truly, truly loves humanity, and he truly, truly wants to show you guys the truth and free you
I
from
want to
the
free you
lies.
guys. I'm going to
Yeah,
free you guys from your fear, your noxious fear that you're going to be punished for being human. Okay,
yeah,
that's not what's going to happen.
yeah. So, all right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and end this
Everybody
out.
that's watching this, please leave comments. Just comment,
Yes.
comment, comment, comment. We'll go through all of them. I'll set up a time with you, Danielle, for next weekend.
Yeah. Sounds
We'll do
good.
the second half of this.
Sounds good.
Love to hear. Keep in touch with me. Just DM me. Let me know
Yeah.
how people are receptive to this.
Yeah. Most
Um,
definitely.
I know it's not what you expected, people who are watching. This is not what you expected to see or hear. But unfortunately, you have to you can't treat this with kid gloves. You
Mm-mm.
can't, because you have to understand is that you've been lied to.
And it shouldn't be surprising. I mean, everything that we know that everything that elites do is to control us, to put us in that state of fear and that bad vibration, because I see them as parasites. So, I mean, it really shouldn't be shocking to people who are really truly looking for the truth.
Right. Okay, so yeah, guys, just comment. Reach out to me on social media if you want. I'm on Twitter at real Mr. Dank, spell out Mr. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Micah Dank. I don't have anything else. I can't manage anything else. Um,
I don't blame you there. And he reads everything, guys. He truly does.
I read everything. Um, so thank you for having me on your channel.
No,
Your
thank you
swing
for
looks
coming
super
on.
comfortable, by the way.
What was that?
Your
Oh,
swing looks.
it's amazing. But I keep telling myself, stop swinging, and it's a nervous habit. I'm like, woo. But it
It's
is.
okay.
It's super comfortable. And I have a hummingbird feeder back here, and I have a little hummingbird who literally will go right in my face and look at me. It's the most amazing thing ever. This is like my zen.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All
thank you
right.
for having me on,
Yeah. Thank you.
and we will do this soon.
Sounds good. All right. Take it easy. Bye. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe and that notification bell. That way you're notified of new videos.